we are.
Antisocial Experience 218, Chasing the Fix. We almost wrecked the boat on that one, man. I had to turn around. I forgot my pink cup. Once again, proving we're the smartest people on the internet.
I fell asleep at the wheel last night.
That's a crazy story, dude. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
I mean, not really, not inspiring content, but, you know.
No, it's just wild. Because my eyes were wide open, you know?
Exhaustion,
Yeah.
I can find, will do that to you some way, somehow.
It does it.
Anyhow, moving on with the show. A while ago, some people in chat said that this guy should come on the show. He did reach out finally. We got him. We're going to get him in here in a second. And it's where I find the two worlds cross for me with this awesome hobby. And podcasting, creating content, and how do I want to say it? Doing repairs. Like the whole DIY aspect of it is where the two worlds seem to intersect. Those two roads cross. Albeit. But, you ready?
Dude, I don't know shit, so I'm ready. You know, I'm just going to be honest there, but I don't know shit about this stuff, so go ahead.
That's all right, man.
And it is all right. I'm here.
I'm asking basic questions on this one.
Yeah. I'm a tail between my legs. I'm good.
Anyhow, I'm not going to butcher the guy's last name, but we have Chase, and he has a YouTube channel. Let's get him in here. I'd never like wrecking people's last names, and I'm not sure. Chase.
Hey, what's going on?
Hello. I didn't want to butcher your last name, so I didn't even attempt to say it. I think I know how it sounds, but what you think and what is can often be two different things.
Right. What's funny is my last name is actually pronounced, or the way I pronounce it is Fournier, but apparently it's pronounced Fournier because it's French. But the coder the coder calls me Chase Frontier, which I accept. I have no hard feelings at all. I think it's hilarious, and I love it.
Yeah, everybody's kind of got a different name.
Right.
But good to have you, man. Thank you for reaching out. As always, I dig getting to talk to new people. You never know what we're going to learn where.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the hard way.
Absolutely.
What and as always, anytime proving today, audio technical difficulties. Whenever you plan something, it's almost always like, what is that law?
Monarchics.
Monarchics law or Murphy's?
Either or.
We're changing it.
Yeah, it switches in and out.
Yeah, something seems to go wrong. Anytime it can go wrong when you're counting on it, it will. But that's fine, man. No worries on that. That's why we fix
stuff.
What's that?
That's why we fix stuff.
Yeah, right. Speaking of, I mean, I can understand a little bit of it. I know Jimmy, co-host here, is not as technical with the repairing stuff and
I'm more like a problem maker than a problem fixer. I'll go ahead and say that. Yeah.
I didn't know how to say that nicely.
That's how I said it nicely.
But because fixing stuff, that's not something somebody would want to do. How did you find yourself going into that world, at least?
So I originally started back in 2010-ish era. I had won an iPod Touch 2nd gen from one of those like really it's like $1 machines that you would see at like an arcade.
Yeah.
Mine was actually at a truck stop, and I had heard this term called jailbreaking, and so for those that know iOS jailbreaking, it would have been iOS 4.2.1, the Green Poison jailbreak, which is an untethered jailbreak. And so once I saw the verbose boot happening on the iPod Touch, I thought I broke it right away. I had no idea what I was doing, but that was the beginning of learning about software and hardware and actually how devices work, how they boot, how they're exploited, and how they run. That was the beginning.
What a beginning, man. That's
crazy.
That's not like just something minor, like let me install this program to customize something. Like that's jumping in the deep end.
Right.
And that, jailbreaking an iPod.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah.
Well, basically you were getting, I mean,
I knows what happens at the end result, but like to get there, please.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I could take the back off.
In between, it's funny you say Green Poison. I remember that one. Do you happen to remember whose video you caught back then?
Oh, I Crack Your iDevice. It was a YouTube channel that did a lot of jailbreaking tutorials, if you're familiar.
Right. Do you remember who was Ty Moss, Ty's
Oh
iPhone Help?
yeah, Ty the iPhone guy or something like that.
Yeah, that's
Oh
the one.
heck yeah.
I saw his video to do the green poison jailbreak actually.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. My goodness, those were the days. I miss those days truly.
So you went from doing that into full on like the transition from that to consoles, micro soldering, like that.
Yeah.
That was the natural progression, or did you just
Okay.
like?
It's actually it's a very large story, but essentially what happened was once I got into iPod jailbreaking, I had won another iPod Touch that was a 4th gen from the same machine. And so now I had an updated version with the camera and all that. At the time, it would have been midway through 2011. The iPhone 4S would have just came out. And the current firmware would have been iOS 4.3.5. So the only jailbreak at the time, and I don't know if there's an untether for that firmware, but it was a tethered jailbreak for Red Snow. You would use Red Snow with the Lime Rain exploit, the USB bug that they had. So originally it started there, and November of 2011, I asked my parents for a PS3 for Christmas. I would have been 15 at the time. And I had this idea, and I was like, maybe I'll jailbreak my PS3 at some point. And so at the time, the PS3 that I had was a 3000 model. And obviously, if you know anything about the PS3 scene, at the time, the PS3 3000 could not be hacked. It was above the 3.55 firmware threshold that you could actually jailbreak, and there was no way to downgrade back to 355 on that model. So I had joined a Call of Duty World at War lobby, which Call of Duty World at War is my 100% favorite game. If you know me, that is the game that started it all for me.
That game rules.
Oh my gosh, yes, dude.
Yeah.
I used to play Nazi zombies a lot.
Yeah, man.
And I joined a modded Nazi zombies lobby. And I actually have the video on one of my old YouTube channels. I'll have to share it on my channel at some point, where this was the moment that my brain was like, oh my gosh, you can do mods on these games? And I was like, I have to jailbreak a PS3. And then the drive. Then it basically kind of moved in that direction. That's kind of how I went. So I got so what I knew, I finally came to the conclusion after looking all over the internet, online, YouTube, for a 4.11 PS3 jailbreak, which they were all fake, that none of them were real. You would download a RAR package and it would have a password on it. And you would have to in order to get the password, you had to go through like 100 billion surveys, which never ended up being real.
No good.
Right. And so the jailbreak didn't exist. Or the custom firmware didn't exist for the PlayStation. So I ended up finding someone on Craigslist that would be willing to trade my slim PS3 for a fat PS3, which was backwards compatible, which technically could be jailbroken, but not easily if it was above 355.
Hey, just not to interrupt you. That was like the first ones out, right? They went backwards. They were like the very first models. Okay. Exactly.
It would have been the 4 USB port model. Yeah.
Okay.
The PS3 I had traded for. Yeah. So versions. Yeah. There's actually a huge story with this. I became super obsessed with the PS3. Like literally in high school, all I did was just spend my time on the PS Dev Wiki, just figuring out how the PS3 worked and the exploits, the firmwares, all that stuff. So that's kind of weird. That's what I did. That's what I spent my time on in high school. Supposed to be writing a paper for English, and then that's what I did.
I smoked weed in the woods and played music, man. So I mean, teacher, you were doing something positive,
Right.
Yeah, right.
The last time I had a hand in anything firmware related, as far as helping with, in not just like doing a BIOS update or installing Linux or anything like that, but actual firmware where it was for a good cause but used as a bad cause, was back in the Vita firmware days, the custom firmwares for that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I've been way out of touch with it, but it was fun when I did it. You know,
I actually had a Vita around the time the first exploit came out, and I mean, you guys can correct me on my knowledge, even those in the comments or in the live chat here. I believe the first exploit was on firmware 2.12, and I did have a Vita at that time when they first released. It was a homebrew loader where you could load homebrew.
or not Vita, the PSP. Game. I meant the original PSP.
Oh, that's what's up, man. I did have a PSP back 2013. The latest firmware at the time would have been like 6.60, I believe. And so running custom firmware on that was pretty sweet.
Sorry, if I said Vita originally, I meant the original PSP. But the custom firmware for that was the last time I had a hand in actually working on anything with it.
Does Wayne really have a man crush on you?
I guess, probably.
That's pretty funny.
That's awesome.
I'm sorry, I had to laugh at that.
Wayne's a badass dude, man.
I know he is, but the fact that you two are in love is not something that is just new to me. I didn't know this.
Man, I love the world.
Well, I know.
Don't you know?
Hey, it is what it is. Sorry to interrupt.
But no, and then the Vita. From a standpoint, you understand firmware, and we don't need to dive into how tough it is cracking some of this stuff. But a lot of people, even the original developer for a lot of the custom firmware for the PSP, said the Vita firmware would never be hacked, and that's he basically quit the scene after being threatened by the Sony Goon Squad, allegedly. I'm glad I held on to my Vita when that firmware finally came out that you could.
You said Vita again.
Did you mean it this time? No. Yeah, I meant it this time.
Yeah, you might as well. Yeah, okay, I'll just shut up.
Yeah, no, I meant the Vita. But from the PSP to the Vita, two different pieces of hardware, but both enjoyable.
Sure.
Yeah, I had both.
For sure.
I can't believe you knew that about the PSP.
Oh, do you know why I know that? Because I love Metal Gear Solid, right? So the original ones that he was talking about that had the USB port, whatever, they and backwards compatible. They came out with the Metal Gear edition when it was first released. There was a package.
What does that mean? You could play PS2 titles?
Yeah, I think PS1 too. Correct?
Wait,
the backwards compatible PS3? Was it to go back to 1 or is it just PS2?
Yeah, so actually all PS3 models, even up to the Super Slim, can play PS1 games, and only backwards compatible can play 2.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude, that's cool as shit.
But if you mod your PS3, you can play all 3. And PSP games, too.
Nice.
I kind of like when companies do that backwards compatible thing, which, Nintendo's, anti that. They make you buy the game over and over to play it on each new console. Which is,
dude, the PlayStation 3 had so many fucking games, too. Fucking a million games, dude.
Yes.
What was really funny about the PS3, there was actually a piece of homebrew. Let me back up. The PS3 actually had an ad, and it literally said, "It only does everything." And there was a hilarious ad or not the ad, but it was mocking the ad. But it was a piece of homebrew called Com Genie's Awesome File Manager. Now, if you know the scene, then the PS3 mod scene, you will definitely know what that piece of homebrew is. But it's just a file manager, and one of the background pictures, it was it only does everything, and it was games, movies, music, homebrew, and it was just just mocking Sony. It was really funny.
Nice. Yeah.
I always thought that was hilarious.
So did you just get obsessed with the PS3 because I don't know, it was a pretty amazing machine when it came out. At least to me, it took I don't know. It became the video game element, it took it to a new real element to me. The games look so much fucking better.
Yeah, the PS3 was pretty much where it started for me, entirely with repair, modding, everything. I was gonna say after that PS3 that I had traded, I drove about 40 minutes north of where I was living, did the trade, and when I finally got back to my house, I went to plug in the HDMI cable, and the whole port was all smashed in. And so, I pretty much just sat there with a PS3 that I could only use I didn't have component cables at the time. All I had was composite. So just the yellow, white, and red, and the quality was god awful. And I used to play it all the time. So I was really depressed. Well, I had become so obsessed with finding a 3.55 PS3 that I ended up buying some Yellow Light of Death broken ones. Now, the sad story is I could never get those to work. I tried reflowing the GPUs, but, that never ends up working out. So I had this idea of using a heat gun to remove the HDMI port off of one of the broken boards and swap it to my good board. And I called my dad up because my dad's into electronics, but he believe it or not, he doesn't have a hot air station, but the man has a service monitor and all that going on. And he's freaking ridiculously smart. But I called him up and I was like, Dad, we have a heat gun in the garage. Do you think I can remove this HDMI port with the heat gun? And he was like, you could try it. I knew that, it's got 19 plus pins on the connector, even though it's a through hole connector. I knew that you can't remove it with a soldering iron, but then I thought hot air would work. So I tried it, swapped the port, and it worked. And that was the very first repair I ever did. No flux, no extra solder. Yeah, it was crazy.
Nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, hot air. If all you ever messed, like the first soldering I did personally, was the guns. It looks like a gun and it has the two wires that go up and connect, like the old school soldering irons. Yep. That's the first one I did soldering with was that, and then I got like a hobby store iron and eventually graduated up from there. But
heat guns, dude, when I started screen printing, like you can use the heat gun to do stuff real quick. So what I learned is you take this heat gun. After I bought like 3 of the cheap ones, I bought one of the good AS ones.
Right.
I take it and I partway cure the ink, and that way when I'm ready to completely cure them under the flash, I just set them in a stack and throw them in there and dry them because they won't the ink doesn't come off.
They're not tacky.
Right, and then I'm able to fully cure them. But it's awesome, man.
Tricks that you learn along the way, just time savers.
Oh, dude, it's huge and space saver.
What was I gonna say? How do you find with keeping up with the changes in technology? Like, just it's getting smaller and smaller, and then when something comes out that you need a new tool to work on it, like, have you dealt with much of that?
Well, believe it or not, 2017 was when I started working on the PS4, and I realized that HDMI ports were actually a huge issue, and people needed them replaced, and that's when I actually started working on them. And I was using a magnifying glass for the longest time. I started actually doing board work technically in 2013, but like very, very little. It didn't start until like 2014, 15 when I started doing a lot of soldering. And I was always using a magnifying glass, like one of those magnifying glass with the ring light around it that you would look through.
Right.
A lot of people have those on different channels, but I remember one time going to a ham swap or like a flea market for electronics, and I remember seeing a microscope, and I was like, why would you ever need a microscope for anything? I was just thinking, like, I think back now and I'm like, dude, it's like everything. Like having a microscope for electronic repair is like the king cheese, man. You can see broken joints up so close. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
have you had any, sorry to interrupt you on that one.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Have you, like, you got to deal firsthand with customers at some point, right? Like person to person?
Oh, yeah, I do basically every single day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever brought somebody in, like showed them, like either through the microscope or on a monitor, like show them the board, like by eye, and then pop it under there and show them how many components are packed in there and like the surprise?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I always link everyone to my YouTube channel because they can ultimately see everything there. But a lot of times I'll show the customer because I've got, like, for instance, I've got the scope right here and it has the camera that goes right through it. And so I can generally just show a customer and be like, hey, there's my microscope. Let's take a look and I'll show you what's going on. It doesn't happen super often, but it does happen occasionally where the customer just wants to see what's up. And I'm like, yeah. Once they see the scope and they see all the equipment, they're like, okay, this guy probably knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
That's generally the reaction that I get.
It's a different world, just like you said, what you can see, what you can discern, but just by trying to guess, looking by eye.
Oh, definitely. It makes a huge difference. Huge difference.
The other thing, I was going to wait till the end to kind of bring this up, but I did see that you had a video about your selling your one camera.
Yeah.
And getting another camera. Have you done that yet?
Yes, actually I did.
What did you
I haven't made it. So the camera that I have up here is a Lumix G7, and it's doing 1080p at 60 frames a second. And I got the exact same camera here for the scope.
That's a good choice.
Oh, for sure, for sure. It's like the Nikon is great for pictures, but for video, I needed something that would do a little bit better. Now, this camera isn't the best solution for microscopes. In my opinion, I think the Lapsum IMX290, that would be the best camera for microscopes, in my opinion. Even though I went with this one, you know, it is what it is. But I kind of wanted something that I could take off and put a lens on. You know, the other one is strictly for microscopes. It's not, you can't take it off and use it for something else.
Right. One thing, I use all Sony cameras now because that's just, I had bought my wife one and a couple lenses, and then I ended up getting one myself. And I had a mix going on of a Lumix G85 and then Sony A6300, and I'm just like, this is getting too much gear to carry when I got to move it. And I ended up selling the G85, the Panasonic Lumix camera, and one of my biggest regrets, I may buy another one just for the overhead cam use of it when it's like on the arm and not up close on a microscope, but I have one on an arm. Sure. The way they handle glare off of PCBs is, I don't know if it's all cameras, but Sony cannot handle it the same at all compared to the Lumix camera I had.
Wow.
I don't know if it was a lens. I don't know if it was Panasonic's color science, but there was virtually no glare through that Panasonic camera off of a PCB when lighting it with like a ring light.
I'm trying to solve that issue right now with my own scope. There is a lot of glare, and I'm trying to get some good shots, you know, to be able to cover different things. And I feel like I'm kind of battling with that myself. And it could be a setting, it could be a lighting issue, it could be a lot of different things I'm going to have to kind of figure out with this setup. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's the only way I know to do it is a second light source, like for the up close. I mean,
that's what I'm coming to the conclusion about myself.
Yeah, some of the lights claim they're no shadow. Obviously no shadow because you're lighting it up that close, but the no glare, that's a whole different thing. Mm. Like just the second light source at a different angle usually takes care of the glare for me.
For sure, for sure.
But I've never heard anybody that shows it in their videos say exactly how they do it. And there's quite a few people that I've seen showing their videos like, oh, I'm going to get rid of the glare, but they don't exclusively say what they're doing to do it.
Right.
So
you
there's
have to
the
troubleshoot
answer.
And figure it out yourself. Yeah.
There's the answer I found anyways. I could be 100% wrong on that, so don't trust me.
For sure, for sure.
What, is there anything you had to turn down because you thought it's been outside the scope of what you want to work on or what you're able to do?
So I have a ton of people that ask me to fix car audio, and I've turned it down, but I'm starting to get turned on to the idea of trying to fix it because I'm more familiar with, I'm not exactly familiar with how audio works with amplifiers, but I have a general understanding of how MOSFETs work and transistors and how to look for shorts and blown diodes. Like I have the general understanding of how to troubleshoot components. So I figure if that's the case, I should be able to move on to other devices. Right. That would be one that would be out of my scope, but I'd be interested into looking into. But I mean, I've fixed stuff from, I even just recently fixed a condenser microphone, had a bad wire in it that was connecting the XLR connector. And then I fixed a turntable too that had like a bad needle on it. So
you're talking turntable.
Yeah, like an actual record player turntable. Yeah,
nice.
It's like a more modern version of it, but yeah.
So modern, vintage, whatever.
Right. I've always been the guy that, like, for instance, I used to have an iPhone years ago that took the lightning connector, and the cables would break, right? And I mean, I got to the point where I was like literally breaking open the plastic to resolder that 5-volt wire to make sure it would connect again so I could just plug and charge. And then I would put some heat shrink over it and call it a day just to keep using that same cable. And that cable was faithful for a long time. I fixed it like probably 3 or 4 times. But I find myself doing stuff like that too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I go to silly lengths with some of the stuff I have. I have one of the first USB to 30-pin cables after they stopped making the FireWire to 30-pin for iPods.
Mm-hmm.
And literally most of the insulation has fallen off of it. So it's like a silver shielded cable with white ends. And it has worked from like when I got it way back in the early 2000s till now. So
wow.
I'm not going to toss it, man.
That's you said it's one of the FireWire iPods, you're saying?
No, it's one of the first USB to 30 pins that they made right after they switched from FireWire. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Wow, that's awesome, man. I missed that era almost entirely until the very end when I got the iPod Touch 2nd gen.
Nice. What new stuff? Is there anything newer that you haven't worked on that you'd like to? Like, because some stuff I'd like to work on, and it's just scary daunting because I haven't seen much of it myself. Do you have anything like that you're just like, you haven't seen a lot of?
I would say I don't see quite often a lot of cell phones. I do fix phones, but not on a regular basis. And I had an iPhone X that I was working on that I really need to kind of practice a little bit more with and get really into. Those dual layer sandwich boards are the death of me at the current state of affairs. That would be one thing.
Dude, it's just like you're reading my mind. I was getting ready to bring those boards up. I won't mess with them.
Yeah.
Because of that sandwiching.
Right. And I can do FPC connectors on phones, all day long. I can do that. I can do a board separation. I can do it. But getting the board back together, I don't have the stencil to reball the bottom layer of the board or the top layer, whatever you want to call it.
It's a nightmare.
Right.
Yeah, there's also one thing that I don't do that I would love to do. There's a machine right over here, the yellow machine here. It's not on the bench. It was on the bench for a long time, but it kind of ran out of space here. But it's a board preheater, and you can use that to reflow chips and things like that. If I ever have a job where I have a larger BGA chip, then I will use that to reflow, just to heat up the bottom of the board to get a nice even, board that just reflow the chip. It just makes everything so much easier when the whole board is hot. But I don't really. I've never had success with reballing ever. I've never had success, and I feel like knowing what I know now, I could probably get away with it and actually do it. But I feel like there's not a lot of money in it, and there's a lot of work that's involved in actually reballing.
There is.
I'm talking about like large BGAs. I'm not talking about like cell phone chips. I can reball those and change those all day long, but large BGAs, like props to the coder that can do all that. I'm like, I just won't even touch it because for me, I could have somebody come in off the street that says, Chase, I need my iPad. My iPad doesn't turn on. I can tell, okay, it needs a TriStar chip. So replace it. Now, I absolutely despise iPad screens. I did one that was completely shattered, and I realized that there's no plastic bezel around the glass. It's just shattered glass all the way around. Yep. And yeah, that was not a pleasure to do. I'm like, I literally told my wife, I was like, I want to do no more iPads. And then like the customer was like, hey, my daughter just shattered her iPad. Can you fix it? And I was like, gosh, dude. But I was like, I'm not going to turn it away. I'm going to do it. It's just a job that I'm not really keen on doing. I'm not a big fan of iPads. I'll do the board work for sure, but screens, I absolutely despise working on them.
All right. Here's a good question for you, being that we're in different areas geographically, but in the same industry with a repair, working in a repair shop and whatnot.
Yeah.
What do you do whenever somebody comes in with something that they tried to fix and messed up worse? Do you even take on those jobs depending on the job, or is it like you'll take them all, you'll take none?
So okay, I will take all of them. Yes, because for me, it shows that they can come to me if they feel like they've messed something up and I can fix it, then I feel like generally they'll feel more comfortable to bring it to me next time. That means just more money,
Right.
more jobs, more money. I like like for instance, if I have somebody that's like completely torn up, like just about every trace on the HDMI connector on a device, which I've seen and I've done videos on before in the past. Yeah, I'll definitely take those on. I like really complex board situations like that. If it is like a board that's on off and there's no signs of liquid damage, I basically just won't even touch them. I feel like there's so much that could go wrong. Like for instance, if a board just drops on the ground. Now I will touch some, but my brain is if the device does not turn on because of drop damage, then I'm not even gonna go into that because it literally could be so many different things. It could be a Southbridge problem. It could be a connector, but it could be so much more. It could be a crack in the board in the vias that's in the board and you can't tell. So it's almost like you don't want to get into it. That's my opinion on that. But
Yeah,
like I'll test stuff and I'll look for shorts, but if there are no shorts, I'm just kind of like there's nothing more that I can really do for that.
Yeah, there's a certain point where you have to value your time that you could be spending making money doing other things than running down whatever rabbit hole trying to the bitter end to find out that it's unfixable. Yeah,
Right, it's just like mechanics will like throw parts at something they can't figure out. You know what I mean? Like after a while, it's like, all right, dude, like we've replaced everything here. Like it's still not working. Like something, something got to give here.
yeah, and
Exactly.
that happens. I find a lot more than people might think it does. At least with, I've had a lot of devices come in just this year alone, not counting any other year, just from January till now, where it's been somewhere else to get fixed, and they never even addressed the initial issue, and in the process broke a couple other things with fixes that, like, why were you fixing that?
Right, I'd be pissed.
Yep.
Like this thing was overheating and not turning on, and you replace the battery. Like, how does
I
that?
even know that's not even right.
Yeah, like a battery replacement is not going to stop overheating and get it. It may get it to turn on, but it still didn't turn on after battery replacements. Just like why? I don't know.
Yep.
And that
I hear that.
Not slamming any companies. That was from a big box store here in our country. Like that was their fix that was their solution for the problem with that computer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Turning to the YouTube side of things, we're not real huge here. You have a pretty substantial following compared to us. We just have a few subscribers over here in the channel. But with the range of content that you've uploaded, like I've seen mainly repair stuff. I believe I saw a few videos that had like a religious, like kind of religion based in it, and then some vlogging type stuff.
Yeah.
Have you had any either negative or positive feedback with just like having the different types of content on there?
I haven't had any real negative. I think I had one guy that said, I didn't come here for religion, and it was like unsubscribe. I think it was literally one person.
Right.
I feel like the general part of life is to just this is my thoughts on YouTube and sharing information and all of that. I feel like one day we're not going to be here, and I know that could be morbid for some people, but I think that this is a positive thing. We're living in the benefits of what other people gave to us for the future, right? And I feel like if I learn something that hasn't been shared, I should share it and pay it forward, because there's going to be somebody in the future that might have that same device that they're like, oh man, I need to get pictures off of this. And then there's a fix for it. There's a general known issue and then somebody can come and fix it. And then, as far as the religious side of things, I feel like the Bible is the main basis for all of life. My general thoughts, the King James Bible is the best in my opinion.
Yeah.
And, the Psalms and the Proverbs is just a book of wisdom. And I mean, it's just like you look at it and you could read it and you'd be like, yeah, that's right. That makes sense. Wow, that's really smart. And then the Psalms are just comforting scriptures. You're going through a hard time, just open up Psalm 23. I mean, really, any of the Psalms. Psalm 139 is a good psalm too. So,
me personally, and that's all I can ever honestly speak for, is I don't have any basis in religion. I have read different books from different religions, like their Bible or whatever it may be, to try and study it and find some type of understanding, maybe find where I'm supposed to be. But overall, taking a step back and looking at it, like just religion in general, it doesn't seem like, and whether I get hate for this or not, it doesn't seem like any one person's right or wrong with the different religions out there. It seems like everybody's talking about like, hey, God this, God that. It seems like a bunch of ladders that go to the same place,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I feel
that's
like, yeah.
my take on it anyhow.
Yeah, what's funny is I've actually looked into a lot of different religions, and funny enough, like I looked into Mormonism at one point because they use the same Bible that I do, and I was looking to how they came to the same conclusions, because obviously it's a completely different religion than what that I am. I would be like a Baptist, non-denominational type person. And then you've got Mormons. They use the same Bible, but it's like, but how do they come to a different conclusion? So everybody's coming to a different conclusion about life, death, God, all that. And I feel like there's got to be one right way, because no one can all be right. And I'm not saying I'm 100% the right way. I feel like everybody has to find that themselves. I could sway you and I could tell you what I believe, but ultimately at the end of the day, you're your own person and you got to come to that conclusion yourself,
Right. I mean,
There's also that chance that everybody might be wrong too.
yeah, and you know what I mean? Like, it's like, what do you go with? Because, there's two sides to every coin, every story. Sometimes there's
Sure.
more than two sides to a story,
Sure, absolutely.
Look at us going on about religion. They're talking about a steam iron in chat. Like, what have we devolved or evolved to with this show?
Yeah, I'm just glad you didn't like pander me, because I was totally going no comment.
Oh my goodness.
But no,
It's so funny.
yeah, I wasn't sure. I saw the mix of content, and I checked it all out, a little bit of the blogging, and I saw the one video that had religion in it, and then mainly repairs. And I'm just like, well, the dude's at least, if anything, you're being upfront with like who you are, because you got what you do, kind of what you believe, and then just some of your like thoughts in the moment with the vlogging type stuff.
Sure.
And it's like, when you start getting an audience that watches that, is when you can start dealing with the dummies out there, it seems. Other than people that support you, you can run into negative people, trolls, whatever you want to call them. And I just didn't know if you'd had any of that, because it just seems like it's too easy for somebody to sit behind a keyboard and type and say, oh, bad on you for this.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't gotten really any hate for what I've posted, which is good. I feel like, the general lot of life is just like, let's just chill. Let's sit back, watch some repairs, and just have a good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like, therapeutic, I want to say.
Right?
Relaxing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, let's resolve issues, and then like let's just flow. That's that's my mindset. Exactly.
Yeah, just be a good person.
Right.
Yeah, that's always your role, man. Like, be a good person is Jimmy's solution for literally everything.
But it works.
And it does work.
Right.
Here's touching back on the camera thing here for a moment. I don't know. I think you're the second, maybe third. I'm getting older. My memory doesn't serve me
Yeah.
as well as it did 20 years ago. But I think you're the second person that I've seen have either a DSLR or mirrorless camera on top of a microscope.
Wow.
What was the? Why'd you decide to go that route and battle through getting the adapters to make that happen?
All right. So I got to give a shout out to a good friend of mine. He lives in Bellevue, Ohio. His name is Ryan. Obviously, I'm not going to give his last name, but his name is Ryan. And I met Ryan through Facebook. He had a microscope for sale. And I told my dad, I was like, Dad, I got to buy this microscope. So I talked to him. We got a certain price. I went and met him. But he had something really interesting in the ad. He said it's used for micro soldering, but has other uses. And the microscope is not as complex as the one I have here. But it's probably worth about $200 ish. It's from Amscope, and it just has a focus feature. It doesn't have a zoom like ours do.
Right.
Now, I bought the microscope, and I was like, so do you do micro soldering? And he was like, you got to find this. He's like, you got to come see my bench. So I take a look, and I just see this bench, and it's just like heaven. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I could almost wish to be you. And, I just kept grinding, kept trying, and eventually got a microscope of my very own that was like his, that had the zoom function, all that. And I had bought a really cheap Chinese camera. I don't remember what I spent on it, but the quality was just god awful. And I realized, okay, I need a better camera. So he had already bought a camera for his. He had bought a Nikon D3500. And so my thoughts were, camera equals good quality, let me buy it. So then I went and bought the camera. And then I went to put it on the scope, and you can buy an adapter that just goes to the scope, but you actually need a lens for the camera to work right. So I had to buy, it was like probably $120 lens. I'll just showcase it right here. So the lens is actually right here, and it kind of goes into like a little cylinder here, right? And then for this camera, now this is actually for Nikon cameras here. But then I had to buy this adapter here, which if I can remove the camera, I'll just do this. Might be able to. Probably not. Anyways, I'm not going to get into it too much, but there's an adapter here, and it goes from F mount to the Micro Four Thirds, I believe it's called. I think that's what the mount is. But anyways, you had to go from this lens to the actual camera itself. And I didn't realize at the time, so then I had to dump another $120 into a lens, and then I was able to use the camera. Now,
It's always more money.
Oh my gosh, I know. It never ends. So it never ends until you get there, and then you're like, okay, I'm happy now, So I got the Nikon. Right? So like only some of us get there.
Okay.
So I used
part?
to do,
The happy part.
actually arriving. Oh my goodness. But I had the camera on the tripod, and every single time I wanted to record for the microscope, I would take the camera off the tripod, take the lens off, and then mount it right here to this microscope mount here. And so it was always a constant, trying to get things to work and swapping lenses. And then I finally got a second camera, and then I ended up selling that one and getting this one. So that's kind of how I went through everything.
It's just an odd choice. Like, mostly everybody gets either one of the microscope cams, a cheap one, or they throw some money at a good one. But I don't know many people that go the mirrorless or DSLR route.
Yeah, I figured that it would be a much better quality camera, but I feel like the best quality that you're going to find, because my dad actually has one, is the Lapson IMX290. It's a Sony sensor, and the camera is pretty much well known if you know Computer Booter. He uses that camera on his scope, and then Northridge Fix is the big one that uses that particular camera. And gosh, I wish I had one, but you know what? I'm very happy with this camera, the Panasonic Lumix. It's considerably better than the Nikon, but you'll see in future videos.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's what wasn't sure whether to bring it up because I saw you just posted that video about the camera. And I didn't know if you were going to go with what you said or going to get a different upgrade and didn't want to spoil something you possibly had planned for content or not. But
yeah, no, I got the same exact camera, and yeah, it's great. I'm totally happy with it, and there's a few bugs I'm gonna have to work out with it and try to fix glare issues, and I mean, we're always trying to move towards a goal, and then this is currently where we're at with the channel. Eventually maybe we'll get. I actually thought about it, just getting the going with the Northridge fixed deal where you just have the Lapsum camera here, with the scope that comes out. That way you never use the eyepieces anymore. It's just the camera and a monitor,
working from a monitor, yeah, it's tough. I mean, I have I monitor my scope as it is on a separate monitor, but it just, and I've worked exclusively looking at the monitor and only through the eyepieces. And it's two different worlds of working and getting accustomed to that feeling.
Bingo.
I don't know that I would ever give up the more natural feeling of the eyepieces, but I don't work sitting down. I have a stand-up bench, like a standing bench that I do work at. So that could just be my bad choice for having such a bench.
Yeah. You'll have to play with it and find out what you like. That would be my opinion on that.
Upgrades for the channel, for your tool set, skill set. You got anything you want to throw out there about future plans? Like, not trying to take away from any content you might have planned for the channel, but anything you want to talk about?
Eventually, I want to get a pair of hot tweezers, and I 100% need a desoldering station. I fix way too many controllers to not have one.
Controllers, man, they give me more trouble than anything.
I know. I can't stand them sometimes, but I still fix them. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, I feel like as far as equipment goes, I'm pretty much, I really do need to get a new PC. I need an upgrade with that. If you guys know PCs at all, I'm actually using an FX 6300, I think is what it is.
Yeah, it's an old one.
AMD. Yeah, but I got the computer for free. So
you can't beat free.
You can't beat free. But it does have it has a 120 gig SSD and it's a 2 terabyte. It has a 2 terabyte hard drive. That's where I store all my videos and stuff when I record.
Right. Especially when you get free and it functions, that's even better news,
Right.
Because generally free is like junk and you have to repair.
Right. Actually, my friend Ryan in Ohio actually gave me this computer, believe it or not.
Nice. Yeah, that's mainly what I do here is mainly laptops, PCs, all-in-ones. That's most of my workload that comes through, and the occasional console.
Do you fix like no power situations with laptops and stuff?
Yeah, no power on laptops, desktops.
What is your main go-to? I don't want to catch you off guard, but when you're testing a board, what is your main go-to if you have the board in front of you and you're looking for a no power situation?
No power on a laptop board?
Yeah, we'll go laptop. Yeah.
Before I even get to the board, I check the obvious stuff. Like, are we getting power from the AC adapter? Is that power transmitting through the DC jack? Most of my no power situations that come in have been that. And I've had a few that were board level. I try to find where the power is, like where power is and where it isn't. And obviously, if there's any shorts, any blown components, like obvious stuff. But mainly just checking through power, like trying to find the power rails. Yep. Like, is there power here? Because we know there definitely should be. I'm not great with it. It's one of the things I need more practice with. But each time I get one, it's a little bit more practice.
Bingo. That's where I find myself too. My go-to is always check the main power rail, and if there's no shorts, check and see where there's voltage going. And if you have voltage all throughout, like the main power rail at the main 19 volts, my immediate go-to is to check all those big silver or gray colored giant coils and just check resistance to ground on like every single one of those on the board. And if you find any with like 0 ohms or like really close to 0, then generally I'll inject voltage there to see if anything heats up. So far, I've been successful, but I'm not super experienced with laptops. But
Yeah,
I do
they can
love
be
to
an-
work on them.
They can be a nightmare too. Like there's just ones like I find there's some that just you can waste so much time on it, and it's like, look, they'd be better suited to get a newer computer for whatever reason. They insist that I'm fixing this one,
Mhm.
and it's like
Yeah.
at a certain point you can get a board for this much, and although a board replacement isn't ideal when you can possibly fix it, to waste hours and hours on it, I'll get the board
Yeah.
usually if it's a cheap board.
Sure. Absolutely. Yep. I can definitely see that being something I would probably do, but I would probably be spending hours and hours on the board. That would be my solution is fix the board. If not, sorry, I can't fix it.
Yeah, it all depends, on workload is a big thing. Workload, what can you do, not do. And one thing that I personally do, at least with the shop where I do most of my work at, is whether it makes it to my personal channel or not, I record absolutely everything. And I mean everything. Recording everything saved me from many situations over the years. I find having to replace an irresponsible kid dropping his PS4 in a backpack from shoulder height,
Mhm.
like
Oh
just
yeah.
dropping it on a concrete floor here in the shop, and then wondered why it didn't work when it just worked at his house. Recording saved me from having to replace that PS4. That's one instance of, because it
Oh
happened
wow.
while I was recording another video, and you could clearly hear it smack the floor. So
Oh yeah. That's I see. I haven't ran into issues like that, but maybe that's some good advice to take on. Start recording everything while I'm working. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
it literally it came down to I was repairing something. People walked in and it's like, "Can I help you?" Right while I was repairing something, it was recording. I was like, "I'm recording, by the way. I have a microphone on. Do you mind?" They're like, "No, go ahead." And then you just hear him. He's like, his mother said, "Set it down," and you hear this loud crack when the PS4 hits the floor, and then zipper, he unzips it, comes and sets it literally on the counter right beside what I'm working on, and it's on camera. And as soon as they left, I was like, all right, we're going to slide this job to the side and take a look at this one. It hasn't moved off camera. The recording hasn't stopped. And let's find
Wow.
out if this even works anymore. And it didn't.
Oh my goodness. Was it like on off?
No, it totally killed the hard drive.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, like a 5-foot drop straight to concrete does not end
Nope.
well for a PS4 hard drive.
Oh, I know. Yep.
Usually anything really. It's falling 5 foot into concrete. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not very forgiving.
me, if I fall 1 foot into concrete, I'm
Oh
done.
my god.
Yeah. It's like it's the end. Oh my goodness. That's so funny.
All right, sir. I don't have any further questions. I want to thank you for coming on. I don't know if you have anything you want to ask while you're here, or it's not mandatory. I'm just,
Right.
trying to find out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing about technicians that everybody probably, if you do work on stuff, not everything is fixable and you can't fix everything. And,
No.
as technicians, we're not God. We don't know everything there is to know about everything. We're always learning. I feel like that's one thing that there will be some techs that know more than others, but none of us are
Always.
God. None of us know everything about everything. So I think that if we all come, like generally, like if everybody comes together and just says, you know what, let's just share information with each other and let's all come to consensus about how to fix something, then I think that the world could be a much better place.
That and just the whole repair community. Just speaking on my experiences with repairs like 20 years ago, and now with just how people openly share information. Like
Yeah.
years ago, it's like like if you would go to the local electronic shop or Radio Shack and ask a question, nobody wanted to share info. They were trying to make that money by not
Yeah.
offering to help, not even try and point you in the right direction. And it's so more open and friendly today than it was 20 years ago, at least in my
Absolutely.
experience.
You said about making the world
Yeah.
a better place. Do you think the state we're in now, could it be improved on at all? Like, look how perfect everything is. I mean,
Right?
I mean, wow, man. I just can't imagine improvement to this wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah, right.
There he is.
I
That's why
try to
this
be
guy.
optimistic. I try to be
That's why
optimistic.
this guy.
No, that's good. That's good. I try to be realistic
Sits here.
sometimes.
Yeah, right. Realistic and optimistic is like a conflict with me.
Yeah, no, me too, very much so. No, thanks for coming on, man.
That's
Yeah, I
why he
appreciate
sits
you.
that opposite me.
And thanks,
is-
Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a million, people. If you're not subscribed, haven't visited Chase's channel, there is a link in the description. Make sure you check the channel out. If you like the content, dig it, find it relaxing or informational, subscribe, help share it, get it out there, build this guy's channel, get him closer to his dream of doing what he wants to do all the time, you know?
Yeah,
That,
and share some love to the antisocial experience. These guys are awesome. I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, just tell him. But yeah, dude, thank you so much for coming on. And we will see everybody next week, I believe. I'll get in touch with you, sir. Chase, again, thank you.
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough when you come on and help be a part of the show. And I think that should
thank
be
you.
it. With that, we're out of here. See you,
Sounds
people.
good.
See ya.
Take it
Thank
easy,
you.
guys.
You too.
See ya.